Otakon 2025, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Otakon was an anime convention held from August 8th through the 10th, 2025 at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. Otakon's coming off a big year in 2024. Let's see how they did. For the good! The Thursday 18 plus wristband pickup was a good idea. It was relatively well executed. We got our wristbands in a very short amount of time, and it was a great option, and I'm glad they offered it. The Mecha panel space directly in the main lobby was an interesting addition, and I thought they used it a lot better than last year when that had the 30th anniversary exhibits that were generally quite boring. They were having panels here. There was also items for sale. I thought it was well executed, and I'm curious to see if they'll bring it back next year. One of the areas Otakon has continued to grow and evolve is the video gaming space. In the last few years, they've added retro arcade machines, and this year they had even more. They had more machines than many regular retro arcades do. They had some classic titles like Rush 2049, Die Hard Arcade, Sunset Riders, Simpsons, and a lot of others. They even had pinball machines. I really like where the Otakon video gaming space is going. I like that they finally extended the dealer's hours on Saturday. They were open 1 hour later, and I really support the decision. I'm glad they did it. One of the biggest turnarounds this year was the convention merchandise booth. Last year the lines were long, with my wait being personally an hour. This year, if I didn't want to look at all the merchandise, I would have been out of there in probably 5 to 10 minutes. They got the process much more efficient, with my final wait being about a half hour. What Otakon needs to do is go look at what MagFest does by printing up pictures of the merchandise, having it behind them, or they just need to stop using these glass display cases, because that is where the slowdown happened. They also seem to have enough registers this year, but still much better than last year. I did not expect to be able to attend the Billy concert this year. Due to some schedule changes, I was able to work it in. I got there about a half hour early, had my choice of open seats, and by the time the concert started, they had just about filled the entire room. Billy put on a really good show. It was definitely worth my time at the con to see him. And finally, Verizon's cell phone service was vastly better this year. I'm guessing there was some infrastructure improvements by the venue. I had no cell phone problems this weekend. For the bad, what was absolutely terrible? Nothing. For the ugly, what should have been better? The hotel block opening last year was a mess, with the link showing up early, people with cell phones having a lot of problems maintaining an active connection. I was lucky. I kind of benefited from it because I have hardwired computers, but a lot of people had a lot of stress due to how they opened the block last year. I'm hoping for 2026 they do a better job. I feel again this year that the dealer's room was too large by about 3 rows, and I'd say this year Artist Alley had about 1 too many rows of vendors. They were so large that you had to allocate special amounts of time to be able to get through everything, and to me that's a little bit of a negative, because I do know people that only finally made it through the Artist Alley on the last day despite them loving art. I'd like to see them reduce the size of both these areas a little bit at least. The other problem is with the size of the dealer's room, you start getting generic dealers, stuff you've seen already. A lot of other smaller cons have really upped the grade of their dealer's room. They've really upped the effort they're putting in, so you end up seeing the same stuff over and over again. Was it a little bit better than last year? I will say I thought there was a little bit more unique merchandise on the dealer's room floor this year, but it's still a problem. The dance again this year was in space that was completely inadequate. I walked in there, and believe it or not, was able to walk in there. There was no line when I went. Felt the heat wave hit my face, saw the amount of people in there, and I said I'm too old for this again and left. They need to sort some space out for this dance to do it right. The Oda Lounge, I feel, will be a valuable addition to Otakon when they refine it further. I saw one show in there, there were people playing music in there, and it was fine. A friend of mine who attends a lot of concerts per year said when they went to see the Vaporwave experience that happened on one of the evenings, it seems like there might have been miscommunication between the acts playing and what the equipment setup should have been in there. That for the Vaporwave show, they didn't have the proper lighting setup, and they didn't have projection screens. That seems like a big problem. It seems like after they fix some of these setup problems, maybe define a little bit better what equipment is needed in there, this is going to be a really good addition for Otakon. And finally, we have a special part, again this year. Otakon, please give Discotheque more room. They need more space for their panel. This is what panel 3 looked like before the panel started. It was full. There was more people waiting to get in. Line control didn't happen because Animego happened in this room before Discotheque. Anyone from that line could have just walked in here and grabbed a seat. People were not telling the people waiting in line to come in and get seats. Animego was more than welcome to have people come into the room waiting for the Discotheque panel. There was line control problems, there was space problems. Discotheque needs to be put in either panels 1, 5, or featured events. They have enough attendance to justify it. Let's do better, Otakon, and finally get it done. They are your biggest industry presence right now. Overall, I thought Otakon had a very solid convention, and this was maybe one of my top 3 Otakons I've ever attended. They did really good work this year. The lack of dub actors did little damage to the event. Unfortunately, Otakon had trouble getting dub actors this year due to 2 other large commercial conventions going on this weekend. It didn't seem to affect very much. Traffic flow was excellent around the convention center, which is something Otakon has seemed to master after a few years ago. It will be interesting to see what they do with space, as there's already rumblings there could be reallocations of space for next year. I'm waiting to see what happens. They probably have too many video rooms, but there's other events that might also get shuffled around. We'll have to wait and see. What is my final grade? I'm giving the convention an A-. This was definitely one of the better Otakons I've attended, and I can't wait to come back again next year. Thanks for watching.